Hello, this is Eddie from AppSheet here to show you the best Excel template for keeping track of your inventory. So on a first glance, this might seem like a pretty ordinary spreadsheet. We don't have too many complicated formulas in here, no charts or graphs, no pivot tables, no VBA programming, just a simple clean spreadsheet with a formula or two interspersed, but really nothing fancy about it. But what makes this template so compelling is that it's actually a AppSheet compatible spreadsheet, which means that you can turn this template into a mobile app without a single line of code. So why would we want to do that? So for starters, Excel, if you can imagine, is not a mobile platform. If you've ever tried to manipulate spreadsheets on your smartphone, it just does not work that well. Inventory management, on the other hand, is a very mobile process. Wherever you're going, you're trying to update data on the fly, and typically it's not the kind of place where you'd want to have your laptop there all around. And so what AppSheet does is it actually takes your whole spreadsheet and it turns this into a mobile app that is directly compatible and cloud synced with your spreadsheet so that you get the best of both worlds. You get the organizational capacity of a spreadsheet or database, and yet you also get the mobile portability and usability of a native smartphone app. So what AppSheet will do is take your first row of data and make these into your column headers that are used as fields in the app. But let's jump over to appsheet.com and take a look. So once we're at appsheet.com, we can go to Start for free. And if you're a new user, it'll prompt you to sign up or log in using the existing account. And then we will go to New Mobile App, and we're going to start from our own data. In this case, we're going to call this Grocery Store Inventory Management. And we are going to go ahead and choose our Dropbox data source. You can use Google Sheets, Dropbox Box, Office 365, Salesforce SQL Smartsheet, any number of cloud-based spreadsheets and databases to connect your data platform with AppSheet's interface. So here you can see that AppSheet has actually already taken the data that was directly expressed in the spreadsheet. Terms like avocado, cantaloupe, floss, and related images and everything associated with it, and automatically turn that into a mobile app. You can see we can go into each section, we could edit each field, we could do all sorts of things. Something to take note of is that the data is cloud synced and two-way compatible. That means that if we were to change, for instance, the quantities of avocado from 70 to 80, and we were to save this, and we were to sync our app, we would note that avocados now reflect a quantity of 80. The data is also offline compatible, which means that if you're on the fly in the grocery store and you don't have Wi-Fi access, later on when you reach a point where you have Wi-Fi access, you can directly sync it, or the app will automatically sync it at periodic intervals. So from here, let's take a really quick look at how this app is actually built and the kinds of basic things you can do with it. So let's head over to our Data tab, and we can see that our data source is reflected right here. We can choose what kinds of actions are allowed. We can say updates, adds. We want to be able to add new items, deletes. We can also dive deeper and head over to our columns, and we can take a look at each of the columns. AppSheet has already recognized what each of these columns represent, but if any of these are wrong, we can go ahead and change them. And we can also head over to slices and create a subset of our data. For instance, we could create a slice of our larger data set that represents when quantity is equal to 0 for out-of-stock items. How we would do that is simply create a new slice. We'll call it out of stock, and we will use a simple expression. These are modeled after Excel formulas and Google Sheet formulas, and say when available, which is one of our column headers, is equal to 0. We'll check the value of column available is, and it says the value of column available is equal to 0. So moving beyond our Data tab, we also have a UX tab. Our UX tab allows us to quickly and easily modify how the data is presented. For example, we have right now a deck view that presents each of these with an associated picture. We could also have a table view that expresses less information. We could have a gallery view that's even more detailed, a detail view that walks through each individual item. And depending on our data type, we can also leverage view types like charts and maps that would allow us to better capture and display the data. We could also choose to group the data. Let's say we want to group this by category, and this would allow us to see each item in its proper category. We could also create a new form view What a form view would allow us to do is to allow us to enter in a new stock unit item at any point. Here you can see that we have our form set up. We could enter a name, category, available, time checked, unit price, all of our information. We could even take a picture directly from our smartphone or tablet or desktop. And let's rename this new SKU. In addition to adjusting our standard views, we can also head over to brand and create our own custom branding. We could add our own formatting rules. For instance, we could say whenever the availability of a unit is equal to 0, let's put that in red. We also have a behavior tab that allows us to engage in actions, workflows, and reports. We could create an action that would allow us to add ordered stock. Here you can see that we've named the action, and now we are going to use a simple expression to model it. So what this is now saying is to add order quantity with the value of column available. If you look back at our spreadsheet, we have available, which is what is currently there, and order quantity, which is what each order represents. And so that will take the two numbers and add them together to have the new available total. So for instance, we could create a new action to add ordered stock. And so what we're essentially telling AppSheet to do is to update our category available with what is currently available plus the order quantity. So you can see that we have, with Cantaloupe, we have 231 available, and each order quantity is 50. And so if we were to jump over to Cantaloupe, and we see that we have currently 231 available, whenever we add an ordered stock, that number will be boosted by 50 now to 281. We can also create simple workflows. For instance, we could create a workflow for low inventory so that whenever any change is made and what is available is less than 25, then we can go ahead and send an email to store manager at samplestore.com. We could also create reports, and reports would allow us to send daily or weekly updates at whatever intervals we like to whoever is the relevant stakeholder. From here, we can also adjust the security settings for each app and allow private or public sign-in depending on domain authentication. We can also add intelligent features to the app, such as Smart Assistant, which will allow us to use voice-controlled commands to find and search and identify things in the app, and predictive models, which would allow us to use past data sets to infer questions. For instance, based on past years, how much candy should we now order for Halloween? So you can see that from everything shown today, we are just barely scratching the surface of what is possible on the AppSheet platform. What started as a very simple Excel spreadsheet with just a couple rows and columns has now turned into a fully functional app that you could actually use to manage your store on the fly. To take things one step further, let's go ahead and deploy our app. So we'll head over to Not Deployed. It'll run our deployed check, and we will move our app to a deployed state. And you can now find your app in your email. And go ahead and install my app. If this is on my smartphone, it would come up as a smartphone app. But for now, we can run it in my browser. You can see that the AppSheet app is compatible on desktop, tablet, or smartphone. And we can go ahead and we can see that our app is now reflected here. We can create our new SKUs, enter into our data, get more cantaloupe, and much more. So there you have it. That is how you can start from a very simple Excel spreadsheet and turn it into a fully functional mobile app. Keep in mind that the AppSheet platform is actually data agnostic, so you can use data sources like Excel, Google Sheets and Forms, Smartsheet, Salesforce, SQL, and more. And you can also head over to Sample Apps to get a rough idea of some of the things that are possible on this platform. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the reply section or head over to community.appsheet.com. We'd love to hear from you, and thank you so much for watching.